The restaurant hummed with conversation and clinking glasses. 40 of our closest friends gathered around tables draped in white linen. I should have been happy. 39 years on this earth, and Mira had thrown me what looked like the perfect birthday party at Meridian, the kind of place where appetizers cost more than most people spend on groceries. "Speech! Speech!" someone called from the back corner. Ron Martinez, probably. He always got loud after his third whiskey. I stood up, raising my glass of champagne that tasted like expensive bubbles and nothing else. "Thank you all for being here tonight. It means more than you know to have friends like you." The words felt hollow in my mouth. Half these people hadn't spoken to me in months, not since the rumors started. The other half were here for Mira, drawn to her like moths to a flame that burned bright and cold. "Especially my beautiful wife," I continued, looking down at Mira. She smiled up at me, but something flickered behind her green eyes, something that made my stomach clench. "Who somehow convinced all of you that I was worth celebrating." Polite laughter rippled through the room. I sat back down, reaching for my water glass, when Mira leaned forward. "Actually, Silas, there's something I need to discuss with you." Her voice carried that particular tone she used when talking to contractors or difficult clients, professional, distant. She slid a manila envelope across the table, positioning it right next to my untouched slice of chocolate cake. The envelope was thick, official-looking. My name was typed on a white label in Times New Roman font. "What's this?" I asked, though something in my chest already knew. "Open it." The conversations around us continued, but I felt like we were suddenly sitting in a bubble of silence. I picked up the envelope, noting how Mira's fingers drummed against the tablecloth. Her wedding ring caught the light from the chandelier overhead. Inside were papers, legal documents with letterhead from Thornfield, Brass and Associates. The words, "Petition for dissolution of marriage," jumped out at me like a slap. "You're joking," I whispered. Mira leaned closer, her breath warm against my ear. To anyone watching, it would look intimate, loving even. "Sign now," she said quietly, "or I'll tell everyone your secret." I stared at the papers in my hands. Somewhere behind me, Carla Henderson was telling a story about her daughter's soccer tournament. Normal life continuing while mine collapsed. "Which secret would that be?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Don't play games, Silas. You know exactly what I'm talking about." But here's the thing about secrets. Everyone thinks they're the only one keeping them. Mira assumed I was helpless, cornered, desperate. She had no idea that for the past 6 months, I'd been having very interesting conversations with her sister Tessa. I picked up the pen that Mira had thoughtfully provided. A Mont Blanc, because even divorce papers deserved proper presentation in her world. I clicked it open and smiled. "Which secret?" I repeated, leaning close enough that my lips almost brushed her ear. "The one about your sister, or the one about your father's company?" The color drained from Mira's face so fast I thought she might faint. Her hand, which had been steady as stone, began to tremble against the white tablecloth. "What did you just say?" "I think you heard me perfectly." Around us, the party continued. Lindsay Walsh was showing someone photos on her phone. The waitstaff moved between tables, refilling wine glasses and clearing plates. No one noticed that my wife looked like she'd seen a ghost. "You don't know anything," Mira whispered, but her voice cracked on the last word. "I know about the city inspectors. I know about the permits for the Riverside development. I know about the payments your father made to ensure those permits got approved faster than they should have." I paused, watching her face. "And I know Tessa's been documenting everything." Mira's breathing became shallow. She gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles went white. "That's impossible. Tessa wouldn't what? Help her sister's husband when she found out about your little inheritance scheme?" I set the pen down carefully. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice the surveillance? The way our conversations suddenly became topics of discussion among your friends? The listening device you had planted in my home office? Silas, you're being paranoid. The lamp on my desk. The one you bought me for Christmas. Very thoughtful gift, by the way. Though I have to say, whoever installed the microphone did sloppy work. I found it 3 weeks ago. Mira's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Across the room, her father, Harsen Rellan, stood at the bar, his silver hair perfectly styled, his attention focused on his phone. He had no idea his carefully constructed plan was unraveling 30 feet away. Here's what I think happened, I continued conversationally. Daddy promised you the inheritance if you could get rid of me quietly. Divorce was step 1. After that, maybe some carefully documented evidence of mental instability, a few strategically placed witnesses to testify about my erratic behavior. Then you could have me committed, take custody of Jasper, and inherit everything without the complication of a husband who might ask awkward questions. You're insane, Mira breathed. Am I? Because I have documentation, Mira, copies of emails between you and your father, recordings of phone conversations, bank records showing payments to private investigators. I picked up my champagne glass and took a sip. Your sister's been very thorough. The truth was, Tessa had approached me 4 months ago. She'd been suspicious of her father's business practices for years, but it wasn't until she overheard a conversation between Mira and Harsen about the Silas problem that she decided to act. Tessa might have been the overlooked daughter, but she was far from stupid. What do you want? Mira's voice was barely audible. Right now, I want to finish my birthday cake. I picked up my fork and took a bite. The chocolate was rich and perfectly sweet, but it might as well have been cardboard. Across the table, Mira stared at me like I'd transformed into someone she'd never seen before. Maybe I had. The documents are in 3 locations, I said quietly. The FBI has copies. So does investigative journalist Amanda Chen at the Tribune. And there's a safe deposit box that only I can access. The FBI? Mira's voice cracked. Financial Crimes Division. They're very interested in construction companies that seem to get permits approved unusually quickly, especially when those companies have connections to city council members who suddenly develop expensive tastes in vacation homes. Mira reached for her wine glass with shaking hands. She took a large gulp, then another. There's something else, I said. What? Jasper's medical records. The glass slipped from Mira's fingers, sending red wine across the white tablecloth like spilled paint. Several people at nearby tables turned to look, but I smiled and waved them off. Clumsy, I called out. Too much champagne. Mira grabbed napkins, dabbing frantically at the stain. Her movements were jerky, panicked. I've known for 14 months, I said quietly. His type AB negative, mine's O positive. Yours is A positive. Basic genetics, Mira. Something you might have considered before you started planning my destruction. Silas, please. Rafe Diel has AB negative. Interesting coincidence, don't you think? Mira's face crumpled. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married 8 years ago, before the money and the schemes and the cold calculation took over. I never meant for it to happen, she whispered. Which part? The affair or getting caught? Any of it. I love Jasper. You love the idea of him. The perfect son to inherit the perfect fortune from the perfect family. I leaned back in my chair. But love isn't really your strong suit, is it, Mira? She stared at the divorce papers, still lying next to my half-eaten cake. What happens now? Now? You're going to reach for those papers. Mira's hand moved slowly across the table. And you're going to tear them up. Her fingers stopped inches from the manila envelope. You're going to smile at our guests and pretend everything is wonderful. Then you're going to go home and think very carefully about what you're willing to sacrifice to keep your father's empire from collapsing. And if I don't? Then tomorrow morning, Amanda Chen publishes a very interesting article about corruption in city planning. The FBI executes search warrants on your father's offices. And I file for divorce myself, citing adultery and fraud, with full documentation of your attempts to have me declared mentally incompetent. Mira picked up the papers with trembling hands. For a moment I thought she might try to call my bluff. Then she tore the documents in half, then in half again. She kept tearing until the pieces were too small to tear anymore. "There," she said, her voice hollow. "Happy birthday, Silas." Around us, the party continued. Our friends laughed and talked and drank expensive wine, completely unaware that they'd just witnessed the destruction of an 8-year marriage and a multi-million-dollar conspiracy. "Not yet," I said, "but I think I will be." The ride home was silent, except for the hum of Mira's Mercedes and the occasional sniffle from the passenger seat. She'd managed to hold it together through the rest of the party, smiling and laughing at all the right moments, but now the mask was slipping. "How long have you known?" she asked as we pulled into our driveway. "About Jasper, or about your father's business practices?" "All of it." I considered lying, making it seem like I'd been 10 steps ahead from the beginning, but the truth was more complicated. "I suspected something was wrong about a year ago. You started asking strange questions about my work, my clients, my schedule. Then there were the new friends you kept introducing me to, people who seemed unusually interested in my opinions about city planning and development projects. They were just being friendly. They were gathering intelligence. Pretty obvious once I started paying attention." I turned off the engine. The listening device was a nice touch, by the way. Very professional installation. Mira stared at the house we'd shared for 3 years. It was beautiful, all clean lines and expensive landscaping, purchased with money from her father's construction empire. Money that, I now knew, came from bribes and kickbacks and carefully orchestrated corruption. "When did Tessa contact you?" 4 months ago. She'd been documenting your father's business practices for over a year, but she didn't know what to do with the information until she realized you were planning to destroy me." "I wasn't planning to destroy you." "No? Then what would you call it?" Mira was quiet for a long moment. "Survival." We went inside, and I was struck by how different everything looked. The same furniture, the same artwork, the same carefully curated perfection, but now it all felt like a stage set, a beautiful lie designed to hide ugly truths. Jasper was asleep, of course. It was nearly midnight, and our babysitter had texted earlier to confirm he'd gone to bed on time. I stood in his doorway for a moment, watching him sleep. He had Mira's nose and Rafe's stubborn chin, but his personality was all his own. Quiet, thoughtful, kind in ways that neither of his biological parents seemed capable of. The fact that he wasn't mine genetically had stopped mattering months ago. I was the one who helped with homework and attended soccer games and read bedtime stories. Biology was just science. Family was choice. "Silas," Mira's voice came from behind me. "We need to talk." I closed Jasper's door and followed her to the kitchen. She'd poured herself a glass of wine, something expensive from her father's collection. "What exactly do you want from me?" "I want the truth, all of it, starting with how long you've been planning this." Mira took a large sip of wine. "Planning what?" "Don't. We're past the point of games now." She set the glass down hard enough that wine sloshed onto the granite countertop. "Fine. You want the truth?" "Yes. My father promised me the inheritance if I divorced you." "Yes. We discussed having you declared mentally incompetent if you fought the divorce. And yes, I've been documenting evidence of your supposed instability for months." "Such as?" "The paranoia, the accusations about surveillance, the way you've been acting secretive and suspicious, the drinking." "I don't drink." "You do now, or you did, according to the witnesses I've been cultivating." I had to admire the thoroughness of it. "And Rafe? Where does he fit into this?" Mira's composure cracked slightly. "That wasn't supposed to happen." "The affair? Or Jasper?" "Either. Both." She rubbed her temples. "It started 2 years ago. Rafe was handling some legal work for my father's company. We were working late one night and you decided to celebrate by conceiving a child with him. It wasn't like that. What was it like? Complicated. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Complicated, right. Was it also complicated when you decided not to tell me I was raising another man's son? You love Jasper. That's not the point, and you know it. Mira picked up her wine glass again, but her hands were shaking too badly to drink from it. What do you want from me, Silas? An apology? Groveling? What would make this right? Nothing can make this right, but there are things that can make it fair. Such as full custody of Jasper. Absolutely not. Then I guess we're back to Plan A. FBI investigation, newspaper articles, public disgrace for the entire Rellan family. You can't take my son away from me. He's not your son. He's Rafe's. You made that very clear with your DNA choices. Mira's face went pale again. That's not how it works. Isn't it? Because I'm pretty sure that when this all comes out, when the affair becomes public knowledge and the paternity test results get filed with the divorce papers, a judge is going to have some very interesting questions about your fitness as a parent. I'm a good mother. Are you? Because good mothers don't usually try to have their children's father committed to mental institutions for financial gain. You're not his father. I'm the only father he's ever known. I'm the one who's been there for every scraped knee and bad dream and school play. What has Rafe contributed besides genetic material? Mira was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in dark streaks. It should have made me feel guilty. A year ago it would have. But I'd used up all my sympathy for my wife somewhere between discovering the listening device and realizing she'd been planning to have me institutionalized. There's something else I want, I said. What? The lake house. That's been in my family for 3 generations. And now it's going to be in mine. Consider it payment for 8 years of marriage to a woman who was planning my destruction from the beginning. I wasn't planning your destruction from the beginning. No? When did it start then? When your father promised you the inheritance? When you realized I was never going to be wealthy enough to satisfy your ambitions? When you decided that Rafe would make a better partner for the future Mrs. Rellan? It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like. Mira was quiet for a long moment, staring into her wine glass like it might contain answers. My father's been grooming me to take over the company since I was 16, she said finally. Everything I've done, every choice I've made, has been about proving I'm worthy of that inheritance. When I married you, he was furious. Said I was throwing away my future for someone who would never amount to anything. Charming man. He gave me an ultimatum 2 years ago. Get rid of you, or he'd leave everything to my cousin Marcus in Seattle. So you chose the money. I chose my future, my security, Jasper's security. And you chose Rafe. Rafe was a mistake, a moment of weakness when I was feeling trapped and desperate. A moment that lasted 2 years and produced a child. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen, and now we have to deal with the consequences. Mira finished her wine and poured another glass. What's the third thing? What? You said you wanted custody in the lake house. What's the third thing? I smiled. Your testimony. About what? About everything. Your father's business practices, the bribes, the illegal permits, the city council members who've been taking payments in exchange for favorable votes. I can't do that. It would destroy him. He was willing to destroy me. Turnabout seems fair. That's different. How? You're not family. I was family for 8 years. That didn't seem to matter when you were planning to have me committed. Mira set down her wine glass and stared at me. You've changed. Have I? Or have you just never seen me clearly before? The Silas I married would never have done something like this. He was kind, forgiving. He would have tried to work things out. The Silas you married was naive. He believed that love and trust and basic human decency mattered. He thought that marriage meant partnership, not warfare. And now? Now he knows better. We stared at each other across the kitchen island, 8 years of marriage reduced to a negotiation between enemies. I need time to think, Mira said finally. You have until Monday morning. That's 3 days. Plenty of time to make a decision. Cooperate with me or face the consequences of your choices. And if I choose to fight, then you'll lose. Your father will lose. Rafe will lose. And Jasper will grow up knowing that his mother chose money over his well-being. Mira flinched as if I'd hit her. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. She left the kitchen without another word, and I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then the sound of our bedroom door closing. I sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of my birthday party and the wreckage of my marriage, and tried to figure out how I felt about what I'd just done. The truth was, I felt nothing at all, and maybe that was the most frightening thing of all. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of weather that made everything look washed out and depressing. I was in my office at Meridian Architecture by 7:30, reviewing blueprints for a residential development that would probably never get built, when my phone rang. Silas Kelran. It's me. Mira's voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying or screaming or both. Have you made your decision? I need to see you, in person. I'm at work. This can't wait. I looked at my calendar. 3 client meetings, a conference call with the planning commission, and a deadline for the Morrison project that was already 2 days overdue. Fine, but not here. Meet me at Riverside Park in an hour. Why there? Because it's public, neutral, and I'm not particularly interested in having this conversation anywhere that might be under surveillance. The line went quiet for a moment. You really don't trust me at all anymore, do you? Would you? Another pause. No, I suppose I wouldn't. Riverside Park was mostly empty at 9 in the morning, just a few joggers and dog walkers taking advantage of the cooler weather. I found a bench near the pond and waited, watching ducks paddle around in lazy circles. Mira arrived 10 minutes late, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wasn't wearing makeup. It was the most human I'd seen her look in years. You look terrible, I said, as she sat down beside me. Thank you. That's exactly what every woman wants to hear. I wasn't trying to be cruel, just honest. There's that word again. Honest. She stared out at the water. I've been thinking about what you said. About honesty. About the kind of person I've become. And what conclusion did you reach? That you're right. About all of it. She turned to look at me. I have become someone I don't recognize. Someone I don't particularly like. Is this the part where you apologize and I'm supposed to forgive you? No. I think we're past the point where apologies matter. A jogger ran past us, earbuds in, lost in his own world. I envied him the simplicity of it. I'll give you what you want, Mira said quietly. All of it? Custody, the lake house, my testimony about my father's business practices. Just like that? Just like that. I studied her profile, looking for signs of deception, but she just looked tired, defeated. What's the catch? No catch. You win, Silas. Congratulations. You'll forgive me if I'm skeptical. This seems too easy. Mira laughed, but there was no humor in it. Easy? You think any of this has been easy? I think you're someone who spent her entire adult life manipulating situations to get what she wants. I think you're someone who doesn't give up without a fight. And I think there's something you're not telling me. You're right. There is something I'm not telling you. Here it comes, I thought. The real game. The hidden move she'd been planning all along. My father had a heart attack yesterday. I stared at her. What? Sunday afternoon. He was at the club playing golf with some clients, collapsed on the 7th green. They rushed him to Presbyterian, but... She shook her head. The doctors aren't sure he's going to make it. Mira, I'm sorry. Are you? Because this solves a lot of problems for you. If he passes, there's no one left to prosecute, no one left to testify against. Your revenge becomes meaningless. I hadn't considered that possibility. What did the doctors say? Massive coronary, significant damage to the heart muscle. Even if he survives, he'll never be the same. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Funny thing is, I think the stress of knowing about your investigation is what triggered it. You told him? I had to. I needed him to understand what we were facing. And he laughed, said you didn't have the spine to follow through with any of it, said you were weak and pathetic and would fold the moment things got serious. Clearly he doesn't know me as well as he thought. No, neither did I. We sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the ducks and listening to the sound of traffic from the nearby street. There's something else, Mira said finally. What now? Rafe knows. About the investigation, about the evidence, about everything. How? I told him. Last night. I thought he deserved to know what was coming. And how did he take it? About as well as you'd expect. He's furious. At you, at me, at the entire situation. Let me guess. He wants to fight. He wants to destroy you, completely. He's talking about hiring private investigators, digging up dirt, finding ways to discredit you and your evidence. Good luck with that. Silas, you don't understand. Rafe isn't like my father. He doesn't operate within the bounds of normal business ethics. If he decides you're a threat, he'll do whatever it takes to eliminate that threat. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to warn you. Rafe has connections you can't imagine. People who owe him favors. People who don't ask questions about the jobs they're hired to do. You mean criminals? I mean people who solve problems for the right price. A chill ran down my spine, but I tried not to let it show. What kind of problems? The kind that make inconvenient people disappear. You're talking about having me eliminated. I'm talking about what Rafe is capable of when he feels cornered. And you're telling me this because? Because whatever you think of me, whatever I've done, I don't want you hurt. And I don't want Jasper to lose the only real father he's ever known. I looked at Mira, trying to read the truth in her face. Was this genuine concern or another manipulation? With her, it was impossible to tell. What do you suggest I do? Be careful. Very careful. And maybe consider backing down before this gets completely out of hand. Backing down isn't an option. Why not? You've already won. You've destroyed my marriage, my relationship with my father, my entire future. Isn't that enough? It's not about winning anymore, Mira. It's about justice. Justice? Or revenge? Maybe they're the same thing. She shook her head. They're not. Justice is about making things right. Revenge is about making people suffer. Which one are you really after? I didn't have an answer for that. Or maybe I did, and I just didn't want to admit it. I should go, Mira said, standing up. I need to get back to the hospital. Mira. What? I meant what I said about custody, and the lake house, and your testimony. Your father's condition doesn't change any of that. I know. And if Rafe tries anything at all, I'll make sure the FBI knows exactly where to look for evidence of witness intimidation. I'll tell him. You do that. She walked away without looking back, leaving me alone on the bench with the ducks and my thoughts. I pulled out my phone and called Tessa. It's Silas. We need to talk. What's wrong? Everything just got a lot more complicated. The lake house sat on 40 acres of pristine woodland, 2 hours north of the city. It had been in the Rellan family since 1952, built by Mira's grandfather as a retreat from the pressures of running a construction empire. Now it was about to become the setting for the final act of a drama that had been building for months. I arrived first, using the key that Mira had reluctantly provided. The house was exactly as I remembered it from our occasional weekend visits, rustic but elegant, with a stone fireplace, exposed beams, and windows that looked out over the lake. It should have been peaceful. Instead, it felt like a trap waiting to be sprung. Tessa arrived 20 minutes later, carrying a laptop bag and looking nervous. "Are you sure about this?" she asked as I let her in. "No, but it's too late to back out now. We could still walk away, take what we have to the authorities and let them handle it. And let Rafe disappear into the sunset with his threats and his connections? I don't think so. This is dangerous, Silas. If something goes wrong, nothing's going to go wrong. We have everything we need to end this." Tessa set up her laptop on the dining room table and began connecting cables to a small recording device. "The audio will be crystal clear from anywhere in this room. Video, too, if they cooperate and stay in range of the camera." "They'll cooperate. How can you be so sure?" "Because they think they're coming here to destroy me. They think they hold all the cards." "Don't they?" I smiled. "Not even close." Mira arrived at sunset, driving her father's black Mercedes. Rafe was with her, looking every inch the successful lawyer in his expensive suit and Italian shoes. They walked up to the house like they owned it, which, technically, they still did. "Silas." Rafe's greeting was cold, professional. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." "My pleasure. Please come in." They followed me into the main room, where I'd arranged chairs around the coffee table. Tessa was nowhere to be seen, hidden upstairs with her recording equipment. "Can I offer you anything? Coffee? Something stronger?" "Let's just get to business," Mira said. She looked better than she had at the park, more composed, but I could see the strain around her eyes. "Of course. How's your father?" "Stable. The doctors think he'll recover, though it'll be a long process." "I'm glad to hear that." "Are you?" Rafe leaned forward in his chair. "Because from where I sit, it looks like you've been trying to destroy him. I've been trying to expose the truth about his business practices. If that destroys him, well, perhaps he should have considered that before he started bribing city officials." "You have no proof of any bribes." "Don't I?" I pulled out a manila folder and set it on the coffee table. Bank records showing payments from Rellan Construction to shell companies controlled by 3 city council members. Email correspondence discussing the timing of those payments in relation to permit approvals. Recorded phone conversations between your girlfriend's father and the head of the planning commission. Rafe's composure slipped slightly. "Those recordings are illegal. Inadmissible in court." "Maybe, but they're perfectly admissible in the court of public opinion, and I'm sure the FBI will find them very interesting, regardless of their legal status." "What do you want?" Mira asked. "I want what I've always wanted. Justice." "Justice." Rafe laughed. "You want revenge because your wife was smart enough to see you for what you really are. A mediocre architect with delusions of grandeur." "Careful, Rafe. Your jealousy is showing." "Jealousy? Of you?" He stood up, pacing to the window that overlooked the lake. "You're nothing. A nobody who got lucky enough to marry into a real family, and now you're trying to destroy that family because you can't handle being discarded. Is that what you think this is about? Wounded pride? Isn't it?" I opened the folder and pulled out a photograph. "Do you recognize this?" Rafe glanced at the photo and went pale. It showed him entering a hotel room, his arm around a woman who definitely wasn't Mira. "Where did you get that?" "The question isn't where I got it. The question is what your girlfriend thinks about your extracurricular activities." Mira snatched the photograph from my hand. Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, understanding, and finally fury. "Who is she?" she asked quietly. "Her name is Jennifer Walsh. She's a paralegal at Rafe's firm. They've been seeing each other for about 6 months." "That's a lie," Rafe said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Is it? Because I have hotel receipts, restaurant bills, even a rather intimate text message exchange." I pulled more papers from the folder. Would you like me to read some of them aloud? Mira stood up slowly, the photograph still clutched in her hand. 6 months? Mira, let me explain. 6 months, while I was dealing with my father's health problems, while I was trying to save our relationship. Our relationship? Rafe's voice rose. What relationship? You're still married to him. You're still living in his house, playing happy family with his son. Your son, I corrected. Let's not forget that little detail. Stay out of this, Rafe snapped. I don't think so. See, this is where things get interesting. I pulled out another document. Paternity test results. Legally obtained, completely admissible in court. Jasper is definitely your biological son, Rafe. Congratulations. Mira sank back into her chair. You had no right. I had every right. I'm his legal father. I was concerned about some health issues, so I had him tested. Imagine my surprise when the results came back. What health issues? Mira's voice was sharp with concern. Oh, there are no health issues. He's perfectly fine. But the test results are very real, and they're going to be very interesting to a family court judge. Rafe was staring out the window, his hands clenched into fists. What do you want from us? I want you to understand the position you're in, both of you. I stood up and walked to the fireplace, where I'd prepared my final surprise. A box of documents, thick with evidence and accusations, and carefully documented proof of months of investigation. Mira, you've been planning to have me declared mentally incompetent so you could inherit your father's fortune. Rafe, you've been helping her while simultaneously cheating on her with your paralegal, and both of you have been involved in a conspiracy to defraud the City Planning Commission. You can't prove any of that, Rafe said. Can't I? I picked up the box. 3 months of documented evidence, phone records, email correspondence, financial transactions, witness statements from people you thought you could trust. What people? Your secretary, for one. Turns out she's been very unhappy with the way you've been treating her. Very willing to talk about the things she's seen and heard. Sandra wouldn't. Sandra did. So did the bartender at the Meridian Hotel, where you and Jennifer have been meeting. And the private investigator you hired to follow me around, who got very talkative when he realized he was being used in a conspiracy. Rafe's face was ashen. This is impossible. This is thorough. See, the thing about planning someone's destruction is that you have to be very careful about who you trust. And you two trusted the wrong people. Mira was crying again, but this time there was no sympathy in me for her tears. What happens now? Now you both face the consequences of your choices. I walked to the box and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Copies of everything go to the FBI tomorrow morning. The original documents go to the district attorney's office, and selected highlights get published in the Tribune on Wednesday. You're going to destroy us, Mira whispered. You were going to destroy me. The only difference is that my evidence is real. Rafe turned from the window, his face twisted with rage. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won? I know I've won. Have you? Because there are things you don't know, things that could make your life very difficult. Such as the fact that I have friends who don't appreciate being threatened. Are you threatening me, Rafe? I'm stating a fact. Cross the wrong people and bad things happen. I smiled. You mean like what happened to Jimmy Morrison? The room went silent. Rafe's face went from red to white in the span of a heartbeat. What did you say? Jimmy Morrison, city inspector who started asking too many questions about Rellan Construction's permits. Had a very convenient accident last year. Car went off the road during a rainstorm. That was an accident. Was it? Because I have it on good authority that Jimmy was planning to go to the FBI the week before he was found at the bottom of Miller's Ravine. You're fishing. Am I? I pulled out one more document. Police report from the accident scene. Very interesting reading, especially the part about the brake lines. Mira gasped. Oh my God. Rafe, tell me you didn't. I didn't do anything, Rafe said quickly. Jimmy Morrison's accident had nothing to do with me. But you know who it did have to do with, don't you? Rafe's silence was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're both going to confess. Everything. The bribes, the conspiracy, the attempts to have me committed, and yes, the truth about what happened to Jimmy Morrison. And if we don't? Then I release everything I have, and you both go to prison. Mira loses Jasper permanently. Your father's company gets shut down. And Rafe, well, let's just say that accessory to murder charges tend to carry very long sentences. The room was quiet except for the sound of Mira's sobbing and the distant call of loons on the lake. You have until midnight to decide, I said finally. After that, the decision gets made for you. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Rafe, if anything happens to me, if I have any kind of accident or mysterious disappearance, copies of everything get released automatically. I've made very thorough arrangements. You're bluffing. Try me. I left them in the lake house with their choices and their consequences and drove back to the city through the gathering darkness. It was over. Finally, completely, irreversibly over. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The next morning, I woke up to find 2 envelopes that had been slipped under my door. The first contained a full confession from Mira, detailing her father's business practices and her own role in the conspiracy against me. The second contained Rafe's resignation from his law firm and a statement admitting his knowledge of Jimmy Morrison's demise. I made coffee, read the confessions twice, and then called the FBI. Justice, it turned out, tasted like nothing at all. But it was enough.